What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Wanted to drop in with a new video to remind you guys that this channel isn't just about Oxygen. And it's certainly not just about automatic.css, the utility class and utility variable framework that I'm about to release in November. Nice plug. Okay. So we're going to talk today about 20 ways to legitimize and level up your digital agency. You should be able to see the slides on the screen right there. Reason I'm making this video today is because this year, 2021, my digital agency, which is called Digital Gravy, is on fire. Like, it is doing better than it's ever done. We have definitely leveled up, signing more contracts, bigger contracts. Life is fantastic. The team is growing. We're doing really, really well. And I know that that's not the case for all of you. So if you feel like your agency, or maybe you consider yourself to be a freelancer, these tips are going to help you just as much. But if you consider that your business is not doing better than it's ever been, then I definitely want to jump in and help you with some things. Maybe implementing some of this stuff can really, really help you. If you feel like you're doing better than you've ever been and you still just want to learn some great stuff that maybe you're missing that'll make your thing even better, then this might be for you as well. Shout out to my inner circle. We just passed 550 active members, which is absolutely fantastic. And I can guarantee you, like, we're going to go over these 20 tips. These things we're doing surface level, kind of rapid fire here on YouTube. This is the stuff we talk about in depth inside the inner circle. And I've already gotten dozens of messages from people thanking me for the content and telling me that because of what I'm teaching, they are just like me, they are signing bigger contracts. They're making more money. There's more margin in their contracts. For the first time ever, they are hiring people and building a team. And everything is just running smoother and better, and their clients are happier, and they have more clients than they've had. They have recurring revenue. It's good, right? Everybody is getting great results from this content. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right in. So again, 20 ways to legitimize and level up your digital agency. Number one, and these aren't in any particular, they're in like a loose order, okay? But like I said, I'm just gonna go through kind of rapid fire fashion. So tip number one is to level up your discovery calls. And just off the cuff, off the top of my head, thinking about how I've run discovery calls in the past versus how I run them now, how I've seen others run discovery calls, discovery call recordings that I've listened to from other freelancers and agency owners. Just some quick tips, again, off the top of the head. Number one, you should be discussing price in your discovery calls. And just to clarify, a discovery call is not calls you do during the discovery process that people are paying for. This type of discovery call that I'm talking about is that like pre-sales call where you're qualifying the person, you are selling your services, you're selling yourself, you're getting kind of a price bracketed out. We'll talk about price bracketing in just a minute. And you're just getting the person comfortable in preparation for sending them a proposal, okay? So again, that's what a discovery call is in this context. Let's talk about kind of how it should happen, because this is the foundation of leveling up. If you're not doing discovery calls properly, you're not going to get the contracts, you're not going to get the projects, it's just going to be tough. And you're only going to be able to secure the small fish clients. So when you get on a discovery call, number one, you need to talk about price at some point. I'll tell you how to do that in just a second. Number two, you need to be leading the call. Don't expect the person to tell you everything that they need, but you lead the call with questions, not statements, not sales, not anything else. You lead the call with questions. The more questions that you ask, the better the call is going to go. And your opportunity to sell comes in how people answer the questions. Number one, the questions you ask. You have to ask smart, intelligent questions. But number two, the way that people answer the questions, or sometimes they respond with a question, gives you the opportunity to sell. And the way that I sell, I try to sell without being salesy. So I am authentically trying to tell people exactly what we can do for them based on the goals they're telling me that they have, based on the situation that they find themselves in. That's what this is all about, right? You're talking to a business client who needs a new website, or they need SEO, or they need digital marketing, or whatever. They're in a specific situation and they're trying to get a specific outcome. And this entire discovery / sales call is, how can I get you from point A to point B? And what is that going to look like? And what is it going to cost? That's basically all you're trying to nail down in these calls. But you ruin the call if you just talk. You ruin the call if you just sell. You ruin the call if you treat it like a presentation or something, like where you're going to go in and, yeah, we're the best and we're this and we're that and look at all this work we've done and yada, yada, yada. That's not a discovery call. A discovery call has to discover some things. And in order to discover some things, you got to ask questions. You got to ask a lot of questions, right? And two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to gain a lot of insights that you can use to sell. Covertly sell, right? Just authentically sell. And then number two, the client is going to really feel like you're caring about the situation that they're in, the goals that they have, and you're caring about like creating a campaign that's tailored to what they're telling you versus just fitting them into some sort of package that you give everybody, right? So you're personalizing this process. So I always go in, I've done research on the company. Now, the third thing I would say, and just triggered in my mind, is to be interactive as much as possible. So for example, when we get to the SEO discussion, I literally, usually we're always on Zoom or Google Meet or something like that. I literally pull up Ahrefs. I pull up their site in Ahrefs. We go over their stats. We go over the backlinks that they have. We go over how much traffic they're getting, where they're getting it from, what keywords are ranking. We take a look at their competitors. I show them how their competitors are doing related to them. Like I'm teaching, I'm instructional in a lot of these discovery calls. Same thing with their website. I'll pull up their existing website. We'll go through it. What do you like? What do you not like about your current website? Here's why I think this is working. Here's why I think this is not working. Now you have to be careful because you don't want to like trash people's websites if it's terrible. But at the same time, you want to point out where they might be missing opportunities, where the leaks in the boat are, so to speak, that you can come in and fix and how you're going to fix them with your process. So that's basically what a discovery call is and kind of how you should think about it when you're about to get on one, right? When we talk about price, you want to see, and I'm talking about after you've raised your prices, which we're going to talk about later in this video. But you want to give a price bracket, like a range, and you want to see their reaction to it. A lot of people are afraid to talk about price on discovery calls because they feel like, well, let me give them all the details first. Let me give them this full proposal and the price will be at the very bottom of the proposal. Don't do that. That is a huge mistake. If you put your price in the proposal and that's the first time they see that number, you're in trouble. And the big reason you're in trouble is you're not there to defend the price. You're not there to justify the price. You're not there to overcome objections. When they're reviewing their proposal, it's in their hands now. And I think we're going to talk about this in one of the next slides, but when they get the proposal, they should already basically know what they're about to pay for this, okay? That is a just huge tip that I can give you. They should already know what they're about to pay. In the discovery call, you want to see if they're going to flinch when you give them the price range. If they flinch when you give them the price range, one, it's kind of a red flag. Two, you know that justification is needed. Like we have to go into we have to have a discussion around why this is going to cost the number that I just said, right? Or the range that I just said. Now, sometimes you can say, hey, what's your budget for this? Maybe they throw out a $20,000, $30,000. You're like, oh, cool, we can work with that, right? A lot of times you're going to get the response, well, we don't really know what this should be. And we're looking around and we're trying to see what other people say and yada, nonsense, right? They know. They're pretending they don't know. And that's cool. Like if they want to pretend that they don't know how much it's supposed to cost, it's fine. That's where I throw out the range. And you throw out the range with confidence. In fact, like I say, okay, cool. So based on what you've told me, are you prepared to spend? Here you go. There's your line right there. Are you prepared to spend between $20,000 and $40,000? And you can make it a big range. Don't be like, are you prepared to spend between $22,000 and $22,500? Like, don't do that. Get them, net them inside a big range, right? And then what you can do with that big range is start to bracket them into an actual price, okay? And they really don't even know that this is happening. It's kind of happening to them and they don't have much control over it. But again, they lied to you and they said that they don't know how this stuff works. So for the most part, and I do deal with like bigger clients who have, this is not their first website. It's not their first rodeo. Okay. So I know they know. Now, if you're legitimately dealing with a first time, this is my first website ever for my brand new business. Okay. They may legitimately not know, and they're going to probably be much, much lower on the totem pole anyway. Right. But if you're dealing with a client where it's a sizable project, give them that range, $20,000 to $40,000, and then don't talk. Just shut up and see what their reaction is. See if they flinch. Sometimes they'll go, oh, wasn't expecting that much, and then it's like, okay, well, what were you expecting, right? Like, what would you be comfortable spending? And then it becomes, we'll talk about, getting creative with your pricing plans and all of that. But let's say they don't flinch and they're like, yes, we're prepared to spend somewhere in that range. And so at that point you can say, okay, cool. In terms of your budget, are you having to be closer to the $20,000 mark or the $30,000 mark or the $40,000 mark, right? Like, get them to kind of say where they're comfortable now with their budget. Now, if they say like, oh, we're much closer to $20,000, then you can kind of explain so we have this big range. Well, what factors into that range? Sorry, we're on number one. This is not, some of these are going to be faster. Okay. If they're closer to that 20,000, the beginning of the range, obviously we have a big range. What factors determine where we are in that range? It's deliverables. So say, okay, cool. If you're closer to $20,000, that's no problem. We may not be able to fit all the features that you want into this project, at least not in phase one. But that's cool. We can easily work with it, right? And you just start having that conversation. If they're 30,000, 40,000 towards the top end, oh, perfect. Because that means that we're not going to really have to leave anything out, most likely, that you're wanting in this project. So it's never about and we're going to talk about discounting later as well. It's never about discounting. You're getting this big range, you're bracketing them into a price, and the bracketing is all based on reality. Like, if you're at the start of the bracket, you're probably going to get less deliverables. If you're at the top end of the bracket, you're probably going to get everything that you want, right? You can't have both. All right. So the bottom line is, now they know what range that they're in. They kind of know what they're supposed to expect based on where they fell in that bracket, so that when they get the proposal, there's no sticker shock. There's nothing left to worry about in terms of price. The proposal is, let's worry about the details. All right, let's move on. So that's your discovery call. Because if you don't set all that stuff up correctly, you're dead in the water. Like, you're going to send this proposal. You haven't talked about price yet. They're going to skim it. They're going to make a decision based on price. You're probably not going to get the project, especially if there's, multiple people competing for it. You've already kind of fit. This is the foundation of everything, is getting these discovery calls right. Number 2, stop selling web design. I promise I can go much faster on this one. Stop selling web design. Everybody and their mom that has Oxygen, WordPress, Theme Forest, yada, 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 can sell web design. You are not a web design freelancer. You are not a web design agency. You help businesses achieve their goals. Now, you can niche that down however you want, but the bottom line is, the website that we're building for your company is a sales tool. It is the central hub for your online marketing. It is not, we don't just do web design here. And then we even break it out into what is web design? Web design is just one piece of building a website. The design of the website. Is that UI? Is that UX? Then there's development, right? And then there's the marketing and advertising layer that sits on top of it. There's a lot more to this conversation than web design. So stop calling yourself a web design agency. Stop calling yourself a web designer, a web design freelancer. Stop using this term. It's a meaningless term. It's like one tiny piece. There's no value in web design. Let me say that again. There's no value in web design from your perspective, from their perspective. Let's prove it with data. They can have the best, cleanest, brightest, most awesome web design ever and still get 0 customers. Right? That's just the honest truth. And I tell them that. Pretty doesn't equal bottom line. It doesn't equal money. Pretty doesn't equal money. So we have to stop selling web design. You're trying to sell results. The client wants a specific result. You need to sell that result. The more you sell web design, the less projects you're going to get and the lower price point you're going to get them at. When you start selling the results that the client wants, and a process and experience and expertise, and that you know how to put all the layers on top of each other properly to make a nice little birthday cake, then that's when you're going to get the bigger projects, the bigger fish, and so on and so forth. Stop selling web design. Number 3, write better proposals, okay? I've reviewed a lot of proposals. I've looked at a lot of proposals. And I actually have a training inside of Inner Circle where we go over like a winning proposal. But here's what I'll say about this in short. 1, it has to be personalized, okay? It can't look super cookie cutter, like this is the same proposal everybody gets. Yeah, the colors are all going to be the same. The layout's all going to be the same, but the content needs to be unique to that project. And all the stuff that you asked in the discovery process, like, do you guys want this? Do you guys want that? What's this challenge? What's that challenge? What services do you want to highlight? Yada, yada, yada. All of those answers, all of that information needs to be in that proposal so that when they read it back, they're like, oh my God, this like is built for us. Whereas all these other proposals that they've gotten in the past are just like, oh, here's our process, here's how great we are, yada, yada, yada. Like it's all about me, 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 me. Your proposal needs to be about them, right? You see the difference? It's the same fundamental philosophy of all copywriting. Like make it about the buyer. Don't make it about you. And that's where a lot of like freelancers and agencies go wrong, is they try to make it all about themselves. So if you can avoid that, you're already off to a good start. Second is I always put a statement of work inside the proposal so that they can see that, yeah, they read about the process, they read about their challenges and how we're going to solve their challenges. They read about our team, they like all the stuff that's supposed to be in the proposal. They read it all. It's great. But then they get to the tangible stuff. Here is every single deliverable that we are going to provide you. Then we talk about the cost breakdown of all of that, right? So that when they have this in their hand, and if they have, 10 of them or 5 of them or however many they're gathering, ours guaranteed is the most thorough, the most personalized, and the most detailed. And I can tell you exactly how this works. I've been in a number of situations where they were getting multiple bids. And when I say multiple bids, there was one company that literally was 10 bids. Okay. They told me up front, they're like, and I actually came late. I was referred to them by somebody else who knew me and who knew that they were in this bid process. And they were like, well, have you reached out to Kevin yet at Digital Gravy? And they were like, no, we haven't. And so they set up a call for us and got on the call, and they point blank told me, look, you're a little late to the game. Not your fault, obviously. You didn't even know. We didn't invite you to this process, but we've already gotten 10 bids and we're reviewing them next week. Okay, cool. I did the discovery process, asked them a whole bunch of questions, and they already told me in the discovery call, they're like, wow, nobody else asked us all this stuff, right? Nobody else cared that much. Then I got off the call and I knew I was already head start, okay? I made this proposal, super detailed, full SOW, all deliverables, sent it off to them. Then I heard back and they're like, we need to get on another call. And so I was like, no problem. Got on another call. And we can actually go into a side lesson here that I didn't even put in here because I didn't end up getting this project. But we get on the second call and they said, look, what you've given us so far is super impressive. And they basically told me out of the 10 proposals, they shortlisted 2 of them and mine was one of them. So immediately I came in late to the process and I jumped 9 other people or 8 other people, however much that math works. And that was cool. So I'm like, awesome. Me and them, I'm winning this. It's done. It's a done deal. The problem is, and the reason I didn't win it, this person I was talking to was a middle tier person. Not the CEO, not the CMO, not any of the C's, okay? It was like a marketing director or something like that. And so I was talking to them, and then what would happen is, and I asked 5 times, I was like, can I come in and can I talk to you guys in person? Because I know that when I get in the door physically, I'm there in person, it's a done deal. It's a wrap, okay? They're not making it out alive. It's a wrap, okay? I know that, and that's the confidence I go in with. And it's not being salesy. It's just being confident, being authentic, and legitimately knowing I can solve their problem and get them results. And, knowing that I have a rock solid process to do that. That's it. Okay. And I can communicate that in that discovery session. So I asked them 4 or 5 times, can I come in? Can I come? No, we're busy. We're busy. We're just trying to get this done. And she was kind of like blocking me off from coming in. And so what would happen is, and this was a kind of a technical project. So she had this proposal over here at one price. She had my proposal over here at a higher price, a much higher price. But mine included stuff the other one didn't. And I communicated multiple times. I'm like, look, they're not including this stuff and it's going to be a problem. They're not including content. That's going to be a problem. And so, it was up to her basically to convey the importance of this set of deliverables versus this set of deliverables at this price versus this price. They ended up going with the other one because it was cheaper, right? It was like, $20,000 cheaper, $30,000 cheaper, something like that. And that's fine, whatever. Like the lesson I learned there is just absolutely do not rely on a middle tier person to communicate properly to the real decision makers. Like you've got to get in front of the real decision makers. I tried, I couldn't make it happen. It is what it is, but we're talking about write better proposals. My proposal got me from not even in the game to past 8 other people into the 9th position like that. The discovery call, the better proposal got me to position number. I was in the conversation. All right. And as long as you're getting up to bat and you're swinging and you're chipping balls, like you're going to knock a few out of the park. And that's what's critical. But if you write bad proposals, you're not even in the conversation. You're not even being considered, right? It's somebody else being considered at the top. And you're never going to win that way. Okay. Time your proposals better. So I just told you, don't send a proposal if you haven't already discussed price. That goes into timing. Never send a proposal before a discovery call. So I'll give you another real world scenario. This just happened. Somebody from my inner circle brought me a project and it was open to the public. And basically what they do is they create an RFP or a request for proposal and they put this out to the public. This is usually bigger companies, bigger projects, and a lot of people can bid on them. And a lot of times, by the way, if you're getting government funding, for example, they have to get multiple bids. It's part of the funding that they get says you have to get at least X number of bids. And so they'll create an RFP, they'll put this out, and a lot of people will just read the RFP, create a proposal, boom, fire it in. And what I have always said is I will never send a proposal if I haven't talked to a human being. You've got to do that discovery process. You've got to have that touch point. You've got to get into the nitty gritty. Number one, to make sure that the RFP is accurate, right? It's not always accurate because the people making the RFP aren't experts at this stuff. So you've got to get in there and you've got to have a discussion with somebody. Then you can send a proposal. And I guarantee it's just like the scenario I told you again. If 50 people submit proposals, but you and 3 other people actually got on a discovery call with them first, most likely the 3 people that did the discovery call are going to get mad preference. Like theirs are going to be scrutinized a lot more and probably chosen out of those 3 because you've built a relationship. You've built some trust with the people and with the client, with the prospect, and that you're in the top of mind, right? So when they get your proposal, they already met you, they already like you, they already trust you. Now they're more likely to prioritize your proposal. So never send a proposal if you haven't discussed price. Never send a proposal if you haven't talked to a human being about the project. Preferably, like I mentioned in my last lesson, a decision maker. All right. So time your proposals better. Number 5, create a detailed statement of work. I just talked about this as part of my proposal process. I create a detailed statement of work. In the inner circle, I show you exactly what an SOW is supposed to look like and exactly how much detail we go into in terms of listing every single deliverable, how we categorize them, how we explain them, on and on and on. A lot of people do not do this. 2 reasons, big reasons you need to do this. Number 1, it's part of the contract. The client needs to know exactly what they're paying for, and they need to know exactly what they're not paying for. That protects you just as much as it protects them. So that when you get 75% of the way into a project and the client says, well, where's this? And you're like, well, you didn't pay for that, right? You don't say it like that, but you can show them the SOW and say, it's not here. We never talked about that. We never promised that thing. Because clients will and it's not like they're lying. It's not like they're trying to sneak one over on you. Like they legitimately thought that they asked for this thing that they never asked for, and now they're expecting you to deliver it. But you can be like, well, but you never asked for that thing, right? I have the SOW right here. It's not in the SOW. So we can add it 100%, but it's not in the SOW. It's out of scope. So the SOW protects you. It also protects the client. It impresses the client because let's just add a third thing. Here's the third thing. They get to see everything that goes into an actual project. Because in their mind, what are they thinking? Web design can't be that hard. It's just web design, right? Oh, well, when they see the 400 deliverables that they need, it kind of changes the story a bit, right? It's a little more complicated than I thought. There's a little bit more that goes into this stuff than I thought. And it's not typically not 400 deliverables, but you get the point, right? When they see a laundry list of deliverables, it clicks in their mind, oh, there's stuff on here. I don't even know what that is. And most of the time they won't even ask. If they do ask, you can explain it, whatever. But they need to see everything that's going into their project. And then the price starts to make a lot more sense. Okay? All right. Anyway, create a detailed statement of work. Number 6, have clients sign a master service agreement. This is a contract, but it's called a master service agreement, or MSA. And this outlines all of the, it's the fine print, basically. It's how much they're going to pay, when they're going to pay it, what happens if they don't pay, what happens if they don't review your work, what happens if they don't give you approvals on time, what happens if they disappear for 6 months, what happens if yada, 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 yada. All the little scenarios. We have contract language that governs all of that. If you're not having them sign an MSA, you are leaving yourself hung out to dry. And you're going to get screwed time and time again. So MSA, make it happen. Number 7, start charging for discovery. Not the little discovery calls we talked about a minute ago, but the real discovery process that if you have a legitimate business, you're trying to get legitimate results. Well, bottom line is, there's a lot to learn about the company you're doing work for. There's a lot to learn about their industry. There's a lot to learn about how people behave in their industry. There's a lot to learn about keyword research and how people are searching online for these products and services. There's a lot to learn about how you position their products best. A lot to learn about what their competition is doing well and not doing well. If you're not doing discovery, it's going to be, I would be surprised if you're getting good results, number 1. But number 2, if you're not doing discovery, you're just doing your client a disservice, because there's a lot of things your client is good at in the offline world, but not good at in the online world. And the more discovery you can do for them and the nuggets that you can uncover, the more value you're able to inject into their business, both in the digital world and in the offline world and other areas of their business. And when businesses work with my agency, they're telling me all the time, wow, we hired you to do a new website and some marketing, and you've helped us revamp our entire sales process, the way we approach sales. You've helped us refine the products, you've given us ideas for new products. And I found that stuff in discovery, right? So they get a lot of extra value, but if you're not doing discovery, then they don't get that value. And it's a thing that they will gladly pay for. A lot of people don't know that they need to pay for it up front, but when you explain what it is, it's dude, I'm on your team. I am an investigator. I'm going out, I'm going to figure out exactly what people are searching for to try to find you, how they're searching, what they're expecting to find when they do search. I'm going to see what all your competitors are doing online. I'm going to see what they're doing well. I'm going to see where their weaknesses are that we can take advantage of. I'm coming at this I am dedicated to being a spy, basically, that's going to go in, gather up all this intel, bring it back to them, and make their business 10 times better. And they love that they love feeling like they have somebody like that on their team, because they don't have time to do it. They know somebody should be doing it, but they don't have time to do it. And I take all of that intel and we bake it into their new website and sales process and marketing and all of that. So it all makes sense. It all ties together. So that is discovery, and you should be charging for discovery. If you're not doing discovery right now and you're not charging for it, you are at minimum giving up, I would say, $1,000 to $1,500 minimum, but discovery can go up to $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $15,000, depends on the size of the project, the size of the company, what they're trying to accomplish. There's big money there that you're just not scooping up because you're not even offering it. And a lot of times you're doing it for free, which we're going to talk about in a slide later. So I'm just going to keep moving. Number 8, start charging for project management. Okay, so there's a lot that goes into these projects, especially as you start landing bigger contracts, bigger projects. There's more moving parts. There's more things to consider, which means more phone calls, more emails, more team members, more this, more that, blah, 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 right? It all adds up. You can't just eat the cost on all that stuff. You can't eat the cost on getting on the phone with this client 3 days a week for 30 minutes at a time. You can't eat the cost on typing up 20 minutes at a time, email after email after email. Yes, we did this. Yes, we're doing this. Yeah, do you want this? Do you want that? You cannot eat up that time in your margin. Don't. Stop doing it. Charge for project management. I've talked about this before. It's just like, listen, here's how I'll explain it to you. Take a big company. I've done work for big companies before. Sometimes when a company gets big enough, they have an internal team that handles their marketing and website and all of that. They pay a project manager to manage all of that. Okay, so if they're not big enough to have an internal team doing all this and they want you to do it, they got to pay you for project management because you need a project manager, right? We both need project managers for this. And I'm not paying for it. Like, you're going to pay for it because it's your project. Okay, so that's kind of how you treat it. It all makes sense. And it makes the most sense when you start adding up your time. If you're not charging for project management right now, next project you do, if you still don't, you're not comfortable charging for it, whatever, next project you do, track every minute you're on the phone with the client, you're sending an email to the client, you're texting the client, you're driving to the client, whatever. Track all that time and see how much margin you're giving up because you're doing all that stuff for free. Stop doing that stuff for free. Start charging for project management. Number 9. Start charging for copywriting and make it mandatory. A lot of people are uncomfortable with this, but let me tell you, I did put it in quotes. 99% of the time, copywriting is mandatory. 1% of the time, it's not mandatory. And I'll tell you when that 1% of the time typically is. But if you've been in this game for any length of time, if I took 100 agency owners and sat them down and said, what is the one thing that derails the timeline of your projects? The vast majority would say content. We can't get content from the clients. And then I'm like, okay, so what happens? Well, it sits there. We bug them. We do this. We do that. Sometimes agencies end up doing it for free just to get the project out the freaking door, right? They're like, oh, I'll just write it, right? And they write it and it's done and the client gets free content. And that's the worst case scenario. But this is the reality. Like, content, copywriting, the client inevitably says, oh, we'll handle that. We know how to sell our products. We know how to do blah, 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 blah. So you're like, okay, cool. And then they never give you the content. And you're waiting. You're tapping your feet. You're tapping your finger. You're like, this is killing me. And then, you look up and you've lost 6 months. Like, it's 6 months delayed based on when it was supposed to be launched. And there's things that agencies do, like, oh, well, you're about to be off the timeline. You owe us this amount of, more money or whatever. There's a lot of stuff they try to do. The bottom line is all of that is a disservice to the client. If you are letting the client, let me just say this slowly, because this is the real foundation of this problem. If you are letting the client write their own copy, whether they deliver it on time or not, you are doing them a grave disservice. Your client, I can almost guarantee, is not a copywriter. Okay, it doesn't matter how great they are at sales, they're not a copywriter. There's a difference, okay? And if you are letting them write their own copy, their website is going to be less effective. It's going to be less effective at SEO, and it's going to be less effective at sales. You need to step in, and you need to say, listen, this is how the conversation always goes in my discussions. You're not a copywriter, right? And you can ask them, like, right? You didn't go to copywriting school. Okay. So copy is the most important part of a website. You can have, and I go back into the pretty versus ugly scenario. You could have the prettiest website on earth, and if it doesn't have the right copy and messaging, it will get you this. Goose egg, okay? You can have the ugliest website on earth. Think like Drudge Report, Craigslist, whatever. if it's got the right copy and messaging, it can be spectacular. So hands down, we know based on the way people behave and analytics and all this other stuff, that copywriting is the most, if you're trying to get actual results, not win an award for the best web design, but you're trying to get actual business results, then copywriting is the most important part of the website. I mean, show me differently, right? So this isn't still that's part of the conversation I have with clients. So I say, listen, we are experts at writing copy for the web. We are experts at selling services and products with words and content. So if you want this website to be effective, then we need to be producing the content for this website. Yes, it's an investment. Yes, it feels like it'd be cheaper if you did it. But here's the thing. Number one, the clients who try to do it, you're already busy. You're trying to run your own business. The chances that you are going to carve out the appropriate amount of time to write, decent copy and get it to us is slim to none. So there's a risk here that your project actually gets massively derailed. It's happened time and time again. It happens all the time with other agencies. We're to the point in our agency where we basically say, look, if you want to work with us, you have to let us produce the content. It's mandatory. I tell them that, right? And I'm explaining why it's mandatory. So one, we don't want your project to get derailed. Two, we want your website to be effective. And here's the problem. If you write your own copy and it's not effective, you're very unlikely to point the finger at yourself when the results don't start rolling in. You know who you're going to point the finger at? You're going to point the finger at me. Because I sold you all this stuff and you're telling me it doesn't work. And it's going to be hard for me to point the finger back at you and be like, but you wrote the copy. And we had the discussion about how the copy was the most important thing on the website, right? So that's a tough conversation to have. And this is why I tell them, honestly, I don't want to have that conversation with you. I want you to just let us write the content and the copy. And then if it doesn't work, you can point the finger at me all day long and we'll figure it out, okay? But if you write the copy, we're going to have an awkward conversation if the website doesn't get results. So it kind of boils down to, and it starts to click in their mind. They're like, oh yeah, I can't write copy. I don't have time to write copy. I don't want to deal with this. I just want somebody who knows how to do it to do it. That's the conclusion they come to at the end of the day. And here's what you've effectively done. Not only have you secured the timeline, not only have you secured the effectiveness of the website, you've added, in a lot of cases, $3,000, $6,000, $9,000, $20,000 more dollars to the project in the form of copywriting and content. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. Okay. Number 10, stop agreeing to free work just to win a project. Stop agreeing to free work just to win a project. And we already talked about not doing free work to move a project along, but stop doing free work to win a project. Here's what I mean. People are in these sales conversations, these discovery calls, right? And the client's like, well, we want this and we want that and we want this. And you have that conversation about price. And the client's like, oh, I don't know. And then you start talking about, well, we can scale the project back. And they're like, no, we got to have this stuff. We got to have this stuff or it can't go forward. And you're like, man, I got bills to pay. I got mouths to feed. I can't let this project slip through the crack. Okay. And you just agree. Like, I'll just throw it in. We'll make it happen. Are you comfortable at this price? We'll make it happen. Stop doing that. Stop doing that, okay? You're undervaluing yourself. You're letting the client off the hook. You're going to get bogged down in projects you should not be doing. You could even get upside down depending on how technical these requirements are. Stop doing this. Find clients that don't flinch. Let me say that again. Find clients that don't flinch. Be okay with saying no. If the client is expecting you, because it's not fair. There's an expectation. You can't go to the dentist or you can't go to the heart surgeon, right? And be like, oh, that's a bad thing because like insurance is paying and all that. Let's go to the dentist, right? You can't go to the dentist and be like, doc, I need these fillings, but I just can't. Like, and you just expect the doc to be like, okay, well, I'll just throw that extra one in for free. Like that doesn't happen, right? You go to a lawyer and you're like, well, but I got to get my custody back, whatever your situation is. And you're like, just do it. You just expect the lawyer to like throw it in for free or whatever. That's not a situation this is awkward. Like now you're not going to believe me. You're like, damn, Kevin's got kids that he can't get control of. Okay. We're going to edit this part out. All right. So Number 10, stop agreeing to free work just to win a freaking project. Number 11, standardize. Dang, it's getting hot in here. It's even more awkward now. All right. Number 11, standardize your process. Standardize your process. And I did a video. In fact, let's not even talk about this. I'm going to put a little link up there somewhere, and you're going to click it, and you're going to read about how the website process works. Okay, cool. Number 12, standardize your pricing. So this is how it works. When I'm scoping out a project, I have a price list inside of PandaDoc. PandaDoc is an app that I use to do all my contracts, proposals, all that good stuff. I'm not an affiliate for PandaDoc because I don't even think they have an affiliate program, but nevertheless, it's the best and I recommend it. So inside of PandaDoc, I have all my products in there with pricing. And so I'm going through a website, getting all the requirements, how many pages is it going to be, how many CPTs are there going to be, custom fields, all that good stuff, templates, first pages, first UX design, wireframes, yada, yada, yada. And I'm adding them into PandaDoc. And they all have set prices, right? Attach every component that can go on a website has a set price that we have standardized. And that set price has margin baked into it. We're going to talk about pricing in just a second. The bottom line is it's very easy for me to scope out a project, and I know it's going to be profitable, and I know that we're good at the price that I'm giving because it's all been standardized. So standardize your pricing. I do help you with this inside the inner circle, and I'm going to be releasing more and more trainings on standardizing pricing inside the inner circle, and I'm going to give you actual price lists. So if you just want to like copy my pricing and start using it, you got to have confidence to sell it at that price, but if you want to, you can just take it and run with it. Number 13, price for scale. Here's what I want you to think about, okay? Because this is the trap I see agencies and freelancers especially fall into. Hopefully I haven't been like leaning and like getting my head blocked out this entire time. You cannot price a project to feed your family only. You have to price a project to feed your family, feed the business with like marketing and advertising dollars. Like this client should help you pay to get the next client. There's got to be margin in there to market and advertise. There's got to be margin in there to pay for a team, because you're going to die if you do all this work yourself on every single project, and you absolutely cannot scale. So you've got to have money baked in for you. You've got to have money baked in for the Uncle Sam, unfortunately. You've got to have money baked in for your team. You've got to have money baked in for marketing and advertising. You got to have money baked in just for profit, just to put aside and say, this is nobody's money, right? It's the business's money, but we're not even going to use it. We're just going to put it over here. You got to have that much margin baked in. So when you're pricing for something, if the price you give is only paying for you and your family, and it's not paying for any of the other stuff, you're not running a business, my friend. You're running a hobby, okay? Or you're running a bottom of the barrel freelancing operation. And there's a problem with that too, because you get sick. Like I got COVID, I was out for 2 weeks, okay? And when I was out for 2 weeks, if I wasn't working at that time and I didn't have all this money saved up, and we didn't have a ton of margin in projects, I didn't have other people filling in gaps. With a freelancer, I mean, you could very easily just not have income during that time. So that's a problem. You've got to price for scale. You've got to price for security. You've got to price for growth of not just you, but other people that need to be involved in these projects. And you also need to price, by the way, for just insurance, like insurance on the project. What happens if some of the deliverables are more technical than you expected and they take extra time, they take extra money to fix? You got to have that money there, right? And you can't go back to the client and be like, oh, I messed up on the proposal there. We're about $5,000 short and we're going to need that $5,000. Like that's not how this works. Your client's going to be like, sorry, you gave me a price. Like you told me, I agree to the price. You agree to the price. That's the price. So you've got to price for insurance a little bit in there as well. Number 14. How long have we been doing this? I don't have a timer. Okay, that's good. We'll just keep rocking and rolling. Number 14, expect to win the project at the price you asked for. What did I say earlier? Like you heard me, right? If I walk in, it's a done deal. It's a wrap, son. Like we're getting the project 99 times out of 100. I expect to win. I expect to get a yes. I expect to get the money I asked for. Okay? And like I said, I'm okay with if it's a nickel and dimer, if it's a red flagger, if it's a whatever, I'm okay with just being like, sorry, we're too busy. We can't take on this project right now, right? I go in knowing my value. I go in knowing that I can help this person. And by the way, if I can't help them, I tell them I can't help them. I'm like, sorry, this isn't in our wheelhouse. This isn't what we do. I can hook you up with somebody, or we can take on this part of the project, but you're going to need to find somebody else for this part of the project. You know, there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, but the bottom line is you have to be authentic and you have to be confident. You have to expect to win. And I think that's a big problem with a lot of agencies and freelancers that are struggling to get to the bigger projects is they've gotten to a point, and think about this. When you first got into the game, you probably didn't expect to win the $500 project. You were like, I asked for $500. That's, oh man, who's going to pay me $500? But after a while, you got to a point where you fully expected the $500, right? And then you started asking for $1,000, but you were in that ballpark where you're like, oh God, $1,000, I'm getting heartburn. Can't ask for that. And you know, you kind of did it once or twice, and then you eventually got a yes. And then you started expecting $1,000. You're like, I just can't do it for less than that. Like, I know how much work goes into this. I can't do it for less than 1,000. And you keep working your way up and working your way up. Let me tell you the secret, because this is what I found the first time I landed a $125,000 project. Nothing changed. It was just my outlook where I was like, look, I'm going to tell them this is what the cost is. And that's the end of the story, right? Like, I'm not going to worry about it. If they say no, whatever, I got up to the plate, I took a swing. But if they say yes, that's going to be amazing, right? And they did say yes. But it's to the point now where like I can throw out any number, $250,000 without flinching. And if it's legitimately worth that much money, I expect to get it. And that's just, it's the way you think about these numbers and these projects, it bleeds into your tone and your confidence in the conversations with people. And you can actually defend it, right? Because if you don't go in expecting to get what you ask for, if you're like, I'm going to try, but blah, 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 like, how can you defend that number then? When they flinch and it's time to step in and justify the price, how do you justify a price you didn't even expect to get a yes for? So you have to expect a yes. And if you're stuck at 5,000 right now, the only difference between you getting $10,000 projects and $5,000 projects is expecting to get $10,000 projects. The only difference between you getting $20,000 projects and $5,000 projects is expecting to get $20,000 projects. That's it. You just expect it. Like, it's worth $20,000. That's what I expect to get. Okay? And that's it. That's the end of the story. Number 15, get creative with your payment plans. So there are situations where people will flinch, but they're a great client. I can tell that they would be great to work with. And sometimes this is the newer people, right? These aren't the seasoned people that are just trying to not pay. These are the people who are newer in the game. Maybe they have some funding. Maybe they have just a startup and they're investing their own money. And you say, hey, look, to get started, get you the proper website that you need. And remember, it's not getting you a website. It's like, this is the central hub of your online marketing. Okay. All roads lead to here. So this is super important. It's critical. That just triggered something in my mind about cost when we were talking about copywriting, but I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I'm going to stick to what we're talking about here. So if they flinch at the price and I really want to work with them, you just have to get creative in how you structure the payment plans and how you structure the deliverables. So here's an example. I give a proposal. I would say, look, if it was me, this is the website that I would build. This is exactly how it would look. This is what it would include, yada, yada, yada. It's $20,000. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Okay, flinch. Now you say, okay, obviously $20,000, not what you expected to spend right now. How much are you willing to spend? We get into the bracketing discussion. 10. Okay, they can get to 10. So if they can get to 10, I just say, look, this stuff that I would do if it were me, it doesn't have to be done. It doesn't have to be done now. It does have to be done, but it doesn't have to be done now. So what we can do is like a phase 1 approach. So for the 10 grand, here's what you're going to get in phase 1. And then we're going to get you some results with the phase 1. So money's going to be rolling in. What I want you to do is take some of that money, set it aside, and be willing to invest in phase 2. Phase 2 is that next 10 grand. Here's what we're going to do with that. And so that kind of discussion can get them to be like, okay, I'm comfortable with that. I do want all these bells and whistles. I do want all this stuff that's going to make a difference eventually, but I can't do it all now. What do I need now for $10,000? And then what can I do later for the next $10,000? That's one way to structure it. The next way is to say, look, all right, we need to do all this stuff. You can't pay me $20,000 up front. How much can you get to? 10? Cool. You're going to pay me 10. And then the other $10,000, I did this with a client just last summer. It was a medical company, and I gave them a price of, it was like $18,000 or something like that. And they flinched, and they were like, they were a startup. And so they weren't like this big company with all this money. And they're putting a lot of money into this very, very technical system that they're creating, like gobs of money. It's for surgery. And so, and the website's not like absolutely mission critical for them right now. So when I threw out 18 grand or whatever it was, they flinched. But it's not like I didn't lose them, right? I still got the project and I made more than 18 grand. And here's how we did it. So I basically said, okay, what can we do up front? Like, what can we get on the front end? And then we'll figure out the back end. And it came down to like, well, we can get you 6 right now. Like, just up front, we can get you 6. And then what we'll do is we'll take the other 18. I was like, fine, let's take the other 18, 12, and let's spread that out over the next 12 months. You just pay me $1,000 a month for the next 12 months. That'll take care of the second half. Now I'm taking a risk on that. So they need to actually pay more than $1,000, right? They don't get the same price. I'm taking a risk that, hey, what if y'all guys up and disappear on me? I'm out a lot of my money that I was supposed to get. So we add a little percentage to the total, and then we break it out into 12 payments. So I'm making a little bit more than I would have made otherwise, but they're still getting all the deliverables they need, and I'm actually getting recurring revenue out of it as well. So I know every month I'm going to get this next payment. And so it all works out. So I didn't, you throw out a number just because they flinch, even if they legitimately can't do it, doesn't mean you lose the project. You got to get creative with how you structure the payment plans. All right. Number 16, stop discounting. Stop discounting. The worst thing in the world is for you to discount. So there are going to be lots of times where you throw out numbers and they flinch. And what agencies and freelancers who are doing it wrong, I say wrong, but like it's legitimately wrong, you're undercutting yourself, is they go immediately to, all right, well, I can work with you at this price, blah, 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 and you're just chopping off numbers. You're not chopping off deliverables. You're not getting anything else in return for lowering the price. And like I said, you've got to expect to get that. Now, there's some times where I've lowered the price, but not the deliverables. But I did it for something else, okay? So we actually put in the contract, I need 3 referrals. I need a testimonial, a written testimonial, and I want a video testimonial from you, right? I'm going to show up with a camera and lights, and we're going to stick it in your face, and you're going to give us a great testimonial if you like the work that we did. Because if I knock, $2,500, $5,000 off a project, and we're not dropping the deliverables down because I like you and I want to work with you and I want to get you results, but I still need to make up that $5,000, right? So we're going to make it up, and you're going to give me referrals. You're going to give me video testimonial. You're going to give me a public testimonial on Google or what have you. There's a lot of things there's a lot of ways that a client can pay. You can do a bartering situation, right? Hey, you doing a flooring company? Hey, boy, I need new floors. What can we do here, right? So if they're not wanting to pay cash, they can pay in other ways. So stop discounting. Get something if the money goes down, either the deliverables go down or you get something else in return. Okay, stop just flat out discounting for people. 17, stop doing all the work. Okay, you've got to start building a team. You've got to start removing yourself from more and more responsibilities. Because as you start to grow the business actually needs you in more of a leadership role in order for everything to work out well. And if you're stuck in a do all the work role, you're going to be foregoing the leadership role, and a lot of things are going to slip through the cracks. It's not going to scale. It's not going to be efficient. Clients are going to be unhappy, and on and on and on. So you've got to stop doing all the work. You've got to start removing yourself, and you've got to start putting other people in the right seats on the bus. That's all I'm going to say about that. Number 8. Oh, by the way, there was a time, this is a really important lesson. There was a time where I was rocking and rolling, had landed a few projects, good money, but I was only pricing to feed myself and my family. I wasn't pricing for scale. And 3 other projects came along, and they were good at the time. Now they're small to me now, but at the time they were good projects. Because at the time I was doing like $3,500 websites, and these were like $10,000 websites. And I literally was like, I don't have time to write the proposals, and I can't even take them on. If they said yes, I don't know what I would do. And when I say 10 grand, that was pricing for me. That wasn't pricing for anybody else. That wasn't pricing for scale. So basically by saying yes to these other projects, it was all going to fall on me. And I didn't have the margin in any of the projects to be able to hire people. So you can see where this is going, right? I had to just be like, I just let them go, right? I can't do it. I physically can't do it. When you price for scale, which one was it? 16. How far back do we? Yeah, there you go. When you price for scale, you can stop doing all the work. If you don't price for scale, you'll never stop doing all the work. So those two go hand in hand. They have to work together, and you just have to do it, because there's going to be times where, like I said, you have to turn down work because you can't afford to put somebody else on the bus with you. All right. Number 18, get a simple project management tool and use it. I use Basecamp for my project management. Everything runs through Basecamp. It's really important to do this for having a history of all conversations. You know, those things that clients like to always say, oh, well, I thought you were going to do this. And it's like, no, we talked about that. Here's the thread right here where we talked about it. But if you're digging through emails, and worse, you've got people on your team and it's in their email, and all of that is a nightmare. Get a simple project management tool, get everybody on the same page, get a crystal clear track record of all communications, all assets that the client has uploaded, everything in one place. It's going to make your life a lot easier. It's going to legitimize and level up your agency. Make your website management plan mandatory, okay? And again, it's in quotes because there are times where it's not mandatory, but it's very, 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 very few times. I want control over the client's web hosting and management. And here's why. And I had this conversation with the client. Number one, sir, we are responsible for the performance of your website. It needs to be fast, mobile responsive, free of errors, free of issues, free of security, blah, 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 blah. All of that, just baseline. But we're also, responsible for results, like in terms of getting you sales and money and bottom line and all of that. And an effective website is a living, breathing thing. It is not we're just going to design it perfectly from the jump and it never has to be tweaked. It never has to be adjusted. There's never an A/B test that has to be run on it. We never have to tweak the copy. We never have to change up the offer. We never have to do anything related to actual business with the website. No, that's not how it works. We have to do all those things. So we need it to be, in order to do the proper maintenance and management, we need it to be on our server, in our control. We can make sure it performs really well. We can make sure the daily backups are there. We can make sure everything is running smoothly, but we can also continue to be a partner with you. And this is all sold ahead of time. Like, this is before they sign a contract and all of that. They know that this is the game plan, that when they hire us, we're not just going to build the website, launch it into the wild and be like, all right, good luck with that. We are here as partners to turn this into a ATM machine for their business. Like we're going to put the analytics on it. We're going to put the heat maps, the scroll tracking. We're going to make sure that we are monitoring how people are using the website, making the tweaks and adjustments, designing a marketing layer to put on top of it, an advertising layer to put on top of that, got the SEO going. And this is all constant, ongoing stuff. So at the base minimum, we have the Maintenance, what people call maintenance. I never use the word maintenance. And I never use the word hosting. Look, we need to manage the website. That includes maintenance, it includes hosting, but there's more that goes into it than just maintenance and hosting. Okay, they have to know that. There's also all the licenses of the stuff that you pay for, right? And so if your agency is using agency licensed things, well, who's going to cover those costs, right? That gets baked into that fee. And I explained to them, look, you don't want to have to buy all these licenses for these things that we use, right? We have all the licenses already. They're agency licenses. We're allowed to use them on your website. And we're not going to charge you upfront for all those things. It's just baked into our monthly management fee. And this is recurring revenue for your agency. But this keeps you in the conversation for months to come so that when they're ready, let's say that you did phase 1 and you launched it, and now they're just doing the basic monthly management plan. 3 months later down the line, you come in and say, hey, how's everything going? Are you guys ready for us to, reveal some of the analytics based on what, we've been watching how people use your website, and we think that there's some updates and changes and additions that can be made to make your business even better. Do you want to have that conversation? Yes, we want to have that conversation. Cool. We're still in the conversation because they know we're the ones managing their website, right? And so they want to be talking to us. They want to hear what's next. So it helps you get recurring revenue, yes. It makes sure that all of the technical stuff is taken care of, yes. But most importantly, it keeps you in the loop, in the discussion, so that you can do future work for that client and continue helping them and growing their business. I'm losing my voice. So we're going to have to wrap this up. Number 20, show clients how to refer you. So let's read it again. Show clients how to refer you. What that means is don't ask clients to refer you. Don't tell clients to refer you. Hey, refer me every once in a while. Don't say, hey, will you please give me a referral? Show them how to refer you, okay? Tell them what to look out for. Here's an example. I tell my clients, look, you know a lot of other business owners. Do you ever go to meet and greets? Do you ever do networking? Whatever, right? Most business owners do that kind of stuff. And the best business owners usually do it naturally because that's how they got a lot of their business in the first place, is networking and people and relationships. So I just tell them, look, there's going to be times where somebody's talking about their website. Somebody's talking about Facebook. Somebody's talking about this or that related to marketing or web or digital or what have you. When that happens, I would love for you to bring us up. I would love for you to tell them what we have done for you. And you're just priming the pump right there. You're showing them how to refer you so that the next time they're in a conversation and the person's like, yeah, we tried the Facebook thing. And boom, that primer just clicked, right? And now it blows up because they're like, listen, I got an agency for you. Whoever else is not doing this right for you, I got the guy for you, or I got the team for you. So you're showing them, here's the situation you're going to find yourself in, and there's going to be an opportunity to refer us. And I would really appreciate, here's what that situation looks like. I would really appreciate if you would bring us up at that time and connect us with that person. You need to prime their brain so that it clicks when it happens, because they're having those conversations anyway, but it's just, they're forgetting that they have somebody that they can refer to you, right? But if you prime them, if you show them how to refer you, then they're going to do it more often than not. All right. So, look, that's it. Okay, cool. So we're at the end. Let me flip back to camera here. Can I? No, I can't. All right. It's just up there. All right. So that's it. That's your 20 tips. I'm losing my voice, so I got to go. I will remind you, if you want in depth on this stuff, like I just skimmed the surface, kind of rapid fire. I know I talk a lot, but I think it's valuable. But if you really want the in-depth stuff on all the stuff that we just covered, that's the kind of content that's going to be in my inner circle. Links to that are all below. And like I said, people are getting fantastic results. We're over 550 members now, which is absolutely crazy. And we're going strong. All right. And we're on the march to 1,000. And I guarantee you, I expect to get to 1,000. All right. So that's the attitude you got to have. I expect to get to 1,000. We're just getting warmed up. All right. I'm out. Drop comments, thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. Peace.